Hello. Um, Sitting here for these few minutes before one of these broadcasts, it used to be quite nerve-wracking. The first time you do it, it's very odd sitting there waiting, knowing that around the world people are going to log in. But I've learned to love it. It's like a quiet time, waiting for people to arrive. I was talking to Penny Billington, famous Druid author, editor of the Orders magazine Touchstone, and she was saying how this live event to her feels like she finds herself getting excited, looking forward to it as you look forward to a live event, a real live event, even though you know you can watch it later and it's fine to watch the recording too. There's something about actually being present at this time. And now it's lovely to see people gathering, Rick from Arizona and Ellie from Kent and Rachel from the Fens and someone in St. Louis and not Alabama. Right, okay. From Fife, hello. And over in Hampshire, just down the road, and Cottonwood Cove in Nevada. Sounds fantastic. And then John King from the Ardnamurchan Peninsula in Scotland. Ireland as well, we've got that too. And Brazil, hooray, hooray. So everyone's gathering. And of course, as you gather, just make yourself at home, get comfortable. That's why the image of the sacred grove is such a nice one, because it's such a welcoming place, this clearing in the forest. It's out in nature. And there's probably a fire crackling in the center there. And now, a couple of weeks ago, Dave the Bard showed you the Order's sword. And so I thought I'd show something that you may not have had a chance to see, which happens to reside in my study here. It's not the Order's sword, it's the Order's Dord. And here it is in all its splendor. Let's see if I can fit it in. You see, it's really rather large. Here we go, there, look at that. And let me turn it around and let me play it for you. Not very harmonious or melodious, perhaps. It makes about 3 notes. It's very hard to play, extremely hard to play. Somebody who can play a trumpet is good at it. Children are often good at it. Isn't it magnificent? Now, this is the copy of an instrument that was found near here in Sussex in Battle in just down the road in East Sussex, and it was dug up. And luckily, somebody from, I'm going to turn it around the other way so you might have another view there. Somebody from the Sussex Archaeological Society, what they did was they made detailed notes showing the beveling and the patterns and everything. And so when the original was lost in 1952, how on earth you could lose something like this, I don't know. When it was lost in 1952, the drawings remained, and so we were able to get it cast in bronze by Simon O'Dwyer, a specialist in these ancient instruments, Bronze Age instruments. And he cast it in Ireland, and it was blown for the first time on an Order retreat on Iona. And so we play this Dord at the opening of festivals and ceremonies, and it's a tremendous sound. And if you can imagine, you may have seen it in some of the films of our ceremonies at Glastonbury, somebody standing in the center of the circle and gradually moving around, summoning everyone, gathering everyone. So there you are, the Dord. Now, tomorrow I'm off in a different direction. Battle is to the east of here, but over to the west is West Sussex. And there's a spot called Bosham, which is just so beautiful, where twice a day the sea comes into the village. It's a village on an inlet, and the people living there have lived with the sea for years, with centuries and centuries, of course. And they they live together. And so the high street is flooded every day. The water literally comes up. And so everybody's houses, the front door to people's houses is built higher up, so that when the water's up, the water doesn't come into the house. Every so often, a tourist who doesn't notice the sign warning them will park their car, and it will float off into the water. So Carol is saying, "Oh my God, I wish I was going to go there and join in the retreat." So that should be lovely. So now what I want to do is tell you, really just to chat with you about a film that I saw a few days ago. Do you know, I have a confession to make to you, which is that I've never binge watched a series. Never binge watched a series. Somebody's saying something about a troll, and there's a little. Let me just quickly look through these comments here, just to see that everybody's comfy and okay. Bum, 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 bum. I think everybody's okay. Yes. Jesse says my music style is different to Dave the Bard, but it's okay. So that's marvelous. So if anybody's making remarks that are troubling you, don't worry. Just focus on the recording. Don't worry about the comments. I look at the comments at the end. If I keep looking at them, I get completely distracted. But I actually binged watched for the first time a few days ago a series that's just come out on Netflix called Wild Wild Country. And it's just fantastically made, very well filmed. And I found myself sitting for hours watching episode after episode. It's a 6-part series, well worth it. It's quite fascinating. It's about the extraordinary story of the Rajneesh community and how it went so strangely wrong in the end. And you see this incredible clash of cultures, right-wing conservative Christian culture with New Age hippie culture coming out of being influenced by Bhagwan Sri Rajneesh in the East. And these two cultures just not hearing each other, not understanding each other at all, with disastrous consequences. A story well worth watching, because I think we have such a lot to learn from the pathology of spirituality, when it goes wrong, the delusions that people can suffer from, the strange behaviors that people can engage in. When we look at religion, it's exactly that. It's full of the most wonderful things and the most awful things. And there's a lot to learn. Rocia de Palacio says he's watched it too. So many things to learn from that. Above all, I think one of the things I found extraordinary is how people see it, how we as humans seem to be able to justify anything that we can do if we believe in it. But here's the topic that I just wanted to share with you tonight, which is this. I looked at it and I thought, you know, my generation, I suppose you'd call the baby boom generation. We were so hell-bent on enlightenment, as a book by one of Rajneesh's secretaries is called. A very interesting book. We were so keen to break through that we fell, or many of us fell, for these strange, or got caught up in these strange stories. And I don't, tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, let me know afterwards if you think I'm wrong. But I don't think these things happen anymore, do they? On such a grand scale, the sort of extraordinary fiascos that occurred with gurus in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and maybe even into the 90s. I don't think they happen anymore. I think there has been an evolution and a change. In one sense, you look at that behavior and you think it's incredibly selfish. We were perhaps terribly caught up in ourselves and trying to understand ourselves. But I think what we were doing as a generation, perhaps, was fulfilling the injunction, the classic injunction, to know thyself, the first injunction of the mystery schools. Man, know thyself. And so the quest for self-knowledge knew no bounds, almost literally. But when you look at that film, you think didn't the fact that Rajneesh had 20 Rolls Royces act as a warning? Didn't you think that was odd? Didn't you wonder why he didn't hang on to one and sell 19 and help children in a hospital? Didn't the fact that everybody had to wear the same clothes act as a warning sign? Everybody wearing this strange, they were called the orange people, but they weren't orange. They used to be orange, but then they became maroon. All this maroon stuff. It's very odd. Somebody says, that's the state of televangelists now. Yes, when I was in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, I indulged myself in watching a little bit of televangelism of the kind that you can't get in Britain. We're starved of this kind of food in Britain. So I watched a debt cancellation service, which offered magic water that you could order, which would be sent to you free, which I thought was terribly generous. And this magic water would clear your debts if you said the right prayers and so on. Extraordinary, unbelievable, a strange sort of bizarre entertainment, really, if it wasn't for the fact that people actually fell for these scams. So what I'd like to do is really, what I'd like to suggest, and again, I'd really be interested to know what you think about this, is my feeling of the millennials that I know, the young people I know. They are remarkably, many of them are remarkably socially aware. Just before binge watching this series, I watched a wonderful TED talk by a young woman who's creating solutions for people who are isolated and lonely. Very impressive. And I know many young people, thanks to having three millennial children, so they keep me aware of this, and you see them on the television as well. And they are, many of them are so socially committed and aware of humanitarian issues, and are passionately trying to engage with the issues and problems of this world. And they are spiritual. It's as if they understand the importance of self-care, of the value of meditation, of yoga, of wholesome food. They understand that. That's a kind of given. And they're coming from a place at which I would call spiritual, but not religious. They're not really interested in joining groups or following groups. They are naturally spiritual, if you like, but their focus is to engage in the world. And I think that's very heartening. I might well be wearing rosy spectacles. I know it's never as simple as that. But I just wonder whether, we went through a phase as baby boomers of doing all this exploration and perhaps building things, popularizing yoga, meditation, spirituality, Druidry, the nature ways, Wicca, paganism. Perhaps that's what we were doing, and we were having to do that. And then this new generation has come in, and it's there, it's available to them to pick and choose from whatever helps them, but allows them as well to focus on giving to the world and helping to solve some of the huge problems that the world faces. So tell me what you think. Tell me if you think I'm overly optimistic or whether you agree with me. And when I come back, I'll read your comments and respond. But in the meanwhile, let's gradually tiptoe our way towards our meditation, because in a way, if you think about it, this quest for self-knowledge and understanding is one part of the spiritual journey. It's one goal that we want to accomplish if we follow a spiritual way, which is to sort ourselves out, to seek illumination. But there's also another goal, because it's not all about ourselves. It's not just about sorting ourselves out. It's also about being of use and being of value. And so in Christianity, you have concepts of service and charity, and in the Dharmic religions, you have concepts of seva, of being of value in the world. And say, in the spiritual path of Druidry, you have a great stress on environmental awareness, on ecological activism, on tree planting, and so on. So we're doing both. We're seeking a way of balance, where we look after ourselves and we look after others in the world too. And so let's maybe go into our time of quiet and peace in the sacred grove, seeking balance, asking for balance. And so just being aware now of this wonderful network of us around the world, this gathering in the sacred grove that just gets bigger with time, that in the end about 3,000-4,000 people perhaps will have been together in this circle. At the moment there are a couple of hundred of us, but all the time people are arriving, and within an hour about 1,000 people will have bathed in the atmosphere of this circle, and within a couple of days 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people will have bathed. And I think we all probably believe in this idea that ripples spread out from a calm pool in which tranquility and deep and strong and good and helpful qualities are developed. So let's do that now. Let's just close our eyes of the imagination, so that we just become aware of being seated in the sacred grove with the earth beneath us. And it feels good to be on the earth. This is our home. We feel it beneath us, and we just let our anxieties or stresses just drop away, because we know we're supported. We know we can gain strength from the earth. The earth helps to keep us stable. It feeds us. It makes us strong. And as we breathe in, we feel the energy of the earth rising up into our bodies, rising up into us, bringing us strength, healing, and stability. And we become aware of all our companions around us in this big circle. And then around the boundary of our circle, we sense the forest, the trees of our sacred grove. We feel them rooted deep in the earth. We feel their tall, strong trunks rising up into the air. We sense their branches, their leaves high above us. And we breathe in deeply, and as we breathe in the aroma of these trees, breathing that aroma deep into our lungs. The essences of the trees mingle in our bloodstream, in our beings, and we feel healed, strengthened, and protected by these trees and the spirits of these trees. We look up into the sky, or we sense the sky above us, and we breathe in the energy of the sky. And the energy of the sky brings us vitality, a sense of being vital, awake, and alive. And the energy of the sky meets the energy of the earth within the center of our beings. And we ask the spirits of earth, trees, and sky if we might be granted balance, if we might be granted self-knowledge, deeper understanding, clarity of being and of vision for ourselves but also so that we may be of value in the world, so that we may work in the world and be in the world and love in the world in a way that brings love and peace, healing and calm to all realms. And we sense ourselves placing the palms of our hands on the earth. And we feel the earth beneath the palms of our hands. We can feel perhaps leaves and twigs. We sense the life that is below our palms, the creatures in the earth, the energy of the earth. And we send our love and our blessings to the earth. And we say, a blessing on the earth, a blessing on the land. And then we slowly and gently move our hands up to our heart, place our hands on our heart, and say, a blessing on our lives, a blessing on all lives. And then we let our hands move back. And we take a moment just to look around the grove and to see our fellow companions seated here, from east and west, north and south. Companions who have arrived from South America, from the northernmost parts of America and Iceland and Europe and Scandinavia, from New Zealand, from the other side of the world, and Australia, from all over the world, gathered around. And we give thanks for this community of like-minded souls and friends. And we slowly allow our awareness of the sacred grove begin to fade. Our awareness of the trees around us, the sky above us, the earth beneath us. That awareness begins to fade as our awareness becomes that of being seated in front of our computer or our tablet or phone, fully present, here and now. Well, that was lovely sitting with you. Maybe one day we can sit together in silence. That would be rather fun, wouldn't it? But I can see lots of little hearts bubbling up from bubbling up across the screen. It's so pretty. And so it seems to me that a meditation like that just sets our intention, as Floriana says, actually. You know, I think if I ask myself at heart, what do I want? What's my intention? Well, you know, I want to sort myself out. I want to be a clear vessel. I want to be as integrated, as wholesome, as creative as possible. And I want to be as helpful as possible, using the particular strengths and abilities that I happen to have. If I was a doctor, I'd be doing doctoring. If I was a painter, I'd be painting. I just seem to work with words and like speaking and writing about these things. And so that's what I do. And I just want to do that as well as possible and as helpfully as possible. So thank you for being here. Tammy says Monday is fast becoming my favorite day of the week. That's lovely, isn't it? I think that's the thing, is if we can set these little moments in time, whether it's the Monday evening that we have together, whether it's another evening that you set up for yourself and you say, okay, and on Thursday evenings I'm going to do this. That will be like a little marker. They're like markers in our life, points of rest, points of stillness. So I'm off to the wild, wild country of Bosom tomorrow for this retreat, which I'm very much looking forward to. Being close to the sea, close to the land, very old land full of history, and close to some of the most wonderful and ancient yew trees, possibly in the world, certainly in Britain. I hope you have a wonderful week. After that, I'm going to France. Now, I might have a good broadband connection in France, but I might not. So you might be in for a surprise guest. So find out next Monday and see who's here. And in the meanwhile, have a lovely week and lots and lots of love. I shall now make some more tea and come back. And I'll post up the blog. I've just summarized what I've talked about today with a trailer for this film that I mentioned, which if you haven't watched it, have a look. I'd be fascinated to hear how you find it, see what you think about it. And I'll see you again soon. Okay, bye then.